Let's think back for a second to the sheer panic of the 2008 housing crash. You know, the collapsing markets, the massive taxpayer bailouts, the years and years of painful economic recovery. Now, I want you to imagine a financial bubble 4 times that size. Because that's exactly what financial experts are currently estimating the scale of the artificial intelligence investment bubble to be right now. Literally 4 times larger than the disaster that rocked the entire globe back in 2008. Welcome to The Explainer. If you've been trying to figure out exactly how all the wild, seemingly disconnected puzzle pieces of 2026 are fitting together, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're doing a really deep dive into the intersections of massive economic debt, mounting national crises, and the rapidly shifting political landscape of 2026. Basically, from Wall Street to the high seas, all the way down to the ballot box, the pressure is really building up. So, to make sense of all this, here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the AI debt bomb. Number 2, crises on the ground. 3, the voter backlash. And 4, a shifting political map. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the AI debt bomb, exploring Larry Ellison's multi-billion-dollar tech gamble. We're going to start right at the very top of the economic food chain to look at the massive corporate debt that's piling up to fund this whole new tech frontier. That is $150 billion. Just wrap your head around that for a second. That is the astonishing level of debt currently being held by Oracle. So the company, which is led by billionaire Larry Ellison, is driving an absolutely unprecedented, highly leveraged build-out of AI infrastructure right now. Ellison, who, by the way, is the 7th richest person in the world, is relying on debt so much more heavily than most of his billionaire peers to fund this massive gamble on generative AI. So what do those high-stakes financial moves actually look like in practice? Well, Ellison is backing a massive $40 billion media merger that would basically bring Warner Brothers, Discovery, Paramount, and CNN all under one single roof. At the same time, he's constructing this sprawling network of 500,000 square-foot AI data centers, kicking things off in Texas. And crucially here, the industry is actively pushing for a $500 billion bank backstop to secure all this infrastructure, and they're partnering really closely with the Trump administration for rapid deregulation. Now, the catch is, if this bubble pops, the financial structure of this entire build-out makes it incredibly vulnerable to a crash, one that could very easily spill right over into the broader economy. And the tension here between ambition and actual risk is profound. It's a classic case of expectations versus reality. On one side, you have these incredible utopian promises of AI being pitched to the public and to the government, right? Things like curing diseases at unprecedented rates or developing personalized cancer vaccines in 48 hours. Hypergrowth. But then you flip it over, and the sobering current reality is astronomical debt. We're looking at an industry where none of this AI is actually making profits to cover these massive investments yet. And so we have that looming risk of a 2008-style crash if the technology just fundamentally fails to scale the way they're promising. Moving on to Section 2, crises on the ground, specifically looking at exhaustion in the military and devastation in the Midwest. So while the tech sector is basically gambling billions on the future, everyday crises are compounding right now. Just take a second and read this quote. "It's hard on your mental state being out to sea for 8 months. I haven't stepped off the ship in the year 2026. That's Airman Randall Stone, and he's speaking to a reporter aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. It really grounds all of these high-level statistics we talk about in a stark human reality, doesn't it? It highlights the extreme fatigue and deteriorating morale aboard our naval vessels that are currently deployed in the ongoing Iran war. And the systemic strain aboard the Lincoln is severe. I mean, the carrier has been deployed for over 250 days now. It has gone more than 200 days without a single port call, which is actually a modern-day record. We're seeing multiple reports from the crew and their families citing things like food shortages, contaminated water, and severe plumbing issues. Sources even reported that a sailor recently jumped overboard during a mental health episode, though thankfully they were rescued. Now, to look at this totally objectively, it is important to note that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has pushed back incredibly hard on these reports. He called them completely misrepresented and stated clearly that the military provides everything the crew needs. Still, the systemic delays in these incredibly extended deployments are undeniably impacting overall readiness and morale. But look, the stress isn't just happening overseas. Shifting to the domestic front, we are seeing incredible devastation in the Midwest right now. Everything I've worked for my whole life has just washed away. It just crushed me. That's from a father of 6 in Muncie, Indiana, and it just really hits home the incredible emotional and financial toll of these catastrophic weather events that are currently destroying homes and livelihoods. The raw data behind this 6-day storm is honestly staggering. Parts of Indiana and the surrounding states have been slammed by what meteorologists are literally calling a once-in-a-thousand-year rainfall. Some areas got up to a foot of rain in just a matter of days. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to about 2 months' worth of precipitation all at once. Over 300,000 people were left without power, and more than 50 river gauges hit flood stage, which prompted emergency water rescues all across the region. So the crucial point we're arriving at is this. Between the looming economic debt bomb, these endless military deployments, and severe domestic natural disasters, the American people are under immense pressure. Which brings us to a pivotal question. How are voters actually reacting to all of this national stress? Well, let's look at the numbers. All right, Section 3, the voter backlash. Let's analyze some historical disapproval polling and take an objective, data-first look at the political fallout from all these compounding pressures. Let's start right at the gas pump. Currently, a stunning 79% of Americans disapprove of the president's handling of gas prices. Just to put that into historical context for you, that is the highest presidential disapproval rating on record regarding gas prices. It's higher than Joe Biden's 72%, higher than Barack Obama's 68%, and even higher than George W. Bush's 75%. It is a clear indicator of massive, widespread economic pain. But what makes these numbers truly historic is how completely they shatter partisan lines. Because you don't hit 79% disapproval just from the opposition party, right? 96% of Democrats disapprove, 85% of independents disapprove, and incredibly, a majority of the president's very own base, 52% of Republicans, also disapprove. The pain at the pump is literally being felt universally. But perhaps the most jarring metric we found is this one. 86% of the working class disapproves of the president on gas prices. That is more than 6 in 7 voters who make under $50,000 a year. And this is uniquely impactful because this is a demographic that historically broke very, very well for the administration. It shows that the current economic pain is deeply eroding previous bases of support. And look, this pain extends way beyond inflation directly into the job market. At the start of the president's second term, his net job approval was sitting at a +9 points. Today, he is 22 points underwater. That is a massive 31-point negative swing. Furthermore, when voters are asked if it's a bad time to find a quality job, that number has rocketed from 45% up to 63%. Sentiment around employment has drastically deteriorated, and it's driving voters to say the country is fundamentally on the wrong track. Which brings us to Section 4. A shifting political map. Let's look at the 2026 Democratic surge in the South and see how this widespread dissatisfaction is actively reshaping the midterm elections. The electoral map right now is expanding in ways that analysts just haven't seen in decades, specifically down in the South. Democrats are currently holding really unexpected leads in 3 former Confederate states. In Georgia, Jon Ossoff is actually up by 13 points. In North Carolina, Roy Cooper is up by 9. And in Texas, James Tallarico holds a 2-point lead. If these numbers hold, it would be a genuinely historic shift. I mean, there hasn't been a Democratic Senate win in North Carolina since 2008, or in Texas since 1988. So naturally, you have to ask, who is actually causing this shift? Well, the data points directly to white college voters. This specific demographic group is the primary engine driving the 2026 Southern political shift. Get this, since 2016, there has been an average 31-point swing away from the GOP among white college voters in these key battleground states. It's a massive demographic realignment with massive electoral implications. Now, if you're wondering why this anxiety isn't just fading away before November, well, it's basically baked right into our immediate economic future. While historical precedent is definitely being challenged here, current economic fears are actively accelerating. Prediction markets right now estimate a 92% chance that tech layoffs in 2026 will actually exceed the massive spikes we saw back in 2025. Having that kind of hanging economic anxiety, specifically in the tech sectors where so much of this new debt is currently leveraged, pretty much ensures that job security and inflation are going to absolutely dominate the ballot box. Which leaves us with this final thought. Today, we've traced the multi-billion-dollar tech gambles at the very top, the exhaustion of our military, the devastation of our heartland, and the sheer frustration of the American voter. So as corporate debt balloons and crises continue to mount on the ground, will this shifting political map completely redefine America in 2026? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions, keep looking closely at the data, and we will see you next time.